Generally, my war team starts with Rook and Blaster. Sometimes I'll drop Blaster first, sometimes Rook, and I'll explain that shortly. But those two have been a staple on my team for a long time. Long time. Someone asked me recently who the best bot in the game is, and I still think it's Blaster. And Blaster's been on my war team since I got him in batch 4. What, 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Maybe? Whenever batch 4 came out, someone maybe able to tell me better than me. But since that, Blaster has been on my war team solid. Since I pulled Rook, same as, I've never once gone into war and thought I won't take Rook. Them two will stay no matter what. Healer wise, so 100% Minerva. I will always take Minerva no matter what, best healer in the game. Sometimes I'll try one healer if it's not attract ward to test out my DPS and get you through the base fast. If I need more DPS, then that's the option. I'll go to one healer maybe. But generally I run 2. And the idea behind that is that people say you don't need 2 healers too much. But there's nothing worse in a war than having one healer and losing that healer early on. I've had some wars where Minerva or Ratchet say I took quite a bit of damage, and the other healer will heal the other one. And that sort of keeps them alive. I can use a heal bomb to keep them alive, and they'll sort of heal each other a bit, and it sort of gets them back on going again. And your bots are pretty much invulnerable with 2 healers. With one, if you lose that one healer early on, you're pretty much dead and buried. You can survive with one healer, you're going to struggle with none. So, generally I have 2 healers, but that's more of a fail-safe in case I lose one. Which doesn't happen often, but it does happen sometimes. It all depends on placement, really. But, yeah. And then, obviously, the rest are gunner combat. So, I generally run 2 tanks. I know quite a few people that run 1. I know a few people run 3. But if you run 3, you're sort of taking the chance of timing out, because you've only got 3 high DPS bots. So I generally run 4. So my old team used to be Jetfire. It would be Sea Spray. My old team actually had Laser Optimus in it. And then I had Bumblebee. And that was generally my team that I ran. But I've had to change this team for a few reasons. So I've took Laser Optimus out because I just wanted even more DPS. And although he has got good DPS, I wanted some more bots that were going to shoot over walls and had gunner combat. So I wanted to swap him out. Sea Spray, because it's an AoE damage, with the amount of healing in the game, is just not as good as he used to be. He's good at cleaning up, but you've got to do that damage first. And in this team, I didn't really have anyone that does damage first for him to clean up. Back in the HQ17 days, he did the damage, and you know, Blaster and Bumblebee would clean up. But because of the healing now, he can't do that anymore. So it's a bit less effective. So I've had to take him out. And then Jetfire can't one-shot anymore. He can one-shot the shield and just about. But when he gets his upgrade, he's not going to be able to one-shot that. So I'm making preparations now for later on. So I've had to drop all 3 of those. Bumblebee, I think, will be a staple in my team forever. My big philosophy is that if a defense is stunned, it's doing no DPS. Doesn't matter if that's HQ17, HQ18, HQ25. Once they're stunned, they're doing no damage. But we need a way to take out those anti-stun billboards. That's really, really important. And Jetfire was that person. But I also need someone that's going to one-shot. So the first change that I kind of agreed to do, wasn't the first change I did, but we needed to sort of put SG Jetfire in. That was something that I needed to do. Because I need to be able to one-shot that shield gen no matter what. No matter what happens, he's a must. A one-shot to one-shot the shield gen is a must. Now, however you want to do that is up to you, but you need that sort of someone in your team to be able to do that. Next up, I wanted someone that can, once SG Jetfire has taken out that shield gen, someone that can take out the MDS. That was quite essential. And so my team then changed to having 6-gun. And this is the sort of team that I sort of run. I had Jetfire in, to be honest with you, for a while, until HQ18 hit. This is sort of how it evolved on towards the end. And 6-gun was taking the MDS out. What I found, though, was sometimes the MDS, I would do quite a bit of damage, but leave a bit of health. And then I'd try and use Sea Spray to finish it off. But then by the time Sea Spray's ability came to it, the Micronus caused something to kick in. And all of a sudden, 6-gun's damage was negated. and the defenses was built up health again. And you've got to think that's a really expensive combo, because 6 gun is 8 ability points, and then using Sea Spray is 4, so that's 12 ability points. Kind of wasted because you haven't killed the MDS. Add that on to SG Jetfire as well. It's a costly combo. Really costly. So I needed a cheap option. I thought I need a cheap option that once 6 gun has done this damage to the MDS, if it doesn't finish it off, I need a cheap bot. Someone cheap to finish it off. And that was plain and simple. Smokescreen. That was the answer. And so the way I sort of work things now is I'll pop outposts with Rook and Blaster. And the reason I've got 2, people say you don't need 2 outpost poppers, but if you're popping 3 outposts different times, then Rook can get really costly. It's about keeping that cost down, keeping it down as much as you can. So I have bots that have 2 uses if I can. So I use Blaster and Rook. So one use is obviously to pop outpost, but I use Blaster a lot so that if I know a certain bot is getting hit by a beam laser, then I'll just throw minions at that beam laser. And once you put the minions at that beam laser, ignore them. Ignore that beam laser, because it's not doing anything to your bots. You know, it just takes out 1 minute at a time. It takes 4 hits about that time. It's 15, 20 seconds are gone. By that time, you've probably destroyed it or got close anyway. So, a good option to distract. I use a lot of distraction in my team. Rook, for the same reason, I can pop outposts. But again, if I'm getting hit by something, I can just throw Rook at it. But a little sneaky top tip. If you're attacking, you have Blaster, try and attack from left to right. Especially if you find that you're losing against Titans quite a bit. And the reason for that is that if you attack right to left, you tend to find that your bots sort of go that way up. And then if your Titan loses, the Titan will start to hit your healers and gunners because they're to the right of the map more than your tanks. If you attack left to right, then you'll find that they will try and hit Blaster. So then if you throw minions forwards, the Titan will aim all its attacks at Blaster's minions and Rook's Hollow. So if you are struggling with your Titan, guys, you are losing, then consider going left to right. Obviously, sometimes you can't do that. It depends on an outpost bot, and it can cause problems. It depends on where Liège is, things like that. So don't just always go left to right. But I'm just saying, if you're struggling with your Titan, just consider going left to right will help you out to distract that Titan and get through the base. So obviously, like I said, I use 6 gun to kill defenses and Smokescreen to finish them off because B can't stun the MDS, it can't stun that area. But again, I use B to do a lot of damage, a lot of AoE damage, and also to just stun defenses because they just don't do any damage at all. So Smokescreen, he finishes up the MDS, but I also use him to take out the build bots for 6 ability points. Now, yes, that is dearer than Jetfire on its first use, but on its second use, it's the same cost. It's still 6 ability points to take out a build bot. So, although it's quite costly for your first use, it's not too bad once you keep using it. So, if there's 1 or 2 anti-stun build bots, then Smokescreen, the person, will get rid of them to be able to use B to keep my bots alive. But then I've got another use for Smokescreen, and that simply is massive DPS. So, I've got him hooked up with his G1 core and glitch both maxed out, and obviously, so he does 2,500 damage to buildings or 13,000 hit enemy bot. So again, it helps getting through that base and getting through the enemy combiner, getting through the enemy bots. It's all about getting that DPS through the base. And if you hit an enemy bot below 40%, it kills it. And I'll explain why that is so important in a second as well. And then we've got glitch on top of that. So again, does more damage to sources when it sort of gets a critical hit. So again, just more and more and more damage. But something people might not have thought of that I've started using for, which is I think personally is a lifesaver, is so if I'm in a battle and I pop Laser Optimus pops, starts firing discs off, and for his ability 11, he stuns your team. And if that stuns your healers as well, it can cause big problems. But for 2 Smokescreen hits, he's dead. So as soon as he pops out, hit him once with Smokescreen, hit him again, no more stun, no more discs. And again, I use it for Rhinox's ability, his G1 core. So looking at Rhinox's core, So restores his health for 5 seconds. When your health drops below 40%, you imprison your nearby foes in your life-stealing vines. So it reignites his ability. So what you find is people put this in an outpost, because what happens is you will fight against Rhinox. He'll do his ability, and you can avoid that with Rook's Hollow or whatever. But then while you're fighting him in close proximity, it reignites the ability, does a lot of damage. So what I tend to do is, when Rhinox gets to a certain amount of health, when he gets in that 40%, then I'll use Smokescreen to finish him off, and it stops the vines. It just kills him in his tracks. And especially if I pop Rhinox on the other side of the map and he's walking over and I know he's at full health, I'll use Smokescreen. I will take him out so he doesn't get near to bots and those vines do not hurt him. So Smokescreen has some amazing uses. And for me, when I went and did my ranking with Tex, I said I feel like bots with low costs will be huge, and I still stand by that now. So Bumblebee for me is massive, absolutely massive. And with the amount of more build bots coming in, that's sort of getting watered down because there's more and more build bot cores. So people using anti-heal now, even using anti-hack, because Blade's coming back in a bit. So people using all these different cores. So people are not using the anti-stun cores as much. So B is coming even more back into the meta. It sort of fell away a bit for a while. People were putting like 3 stun cores. Everyone using C-spray and everyone using B. But people are putting these anti-heal cores more now. It's more the meta shift towards anti-healing. So B is brilliant again. But Smokescreen is honestly, he does everything. He increases your DPS. He kills bots faster to get through the bots faster, so helps with time traps. He can kill pesky outpost bots. He can finish defenses off. They've got a sliver of health. He can take the build bots out. He could do anything. Literally, if you have Smokescreen, guys, I would say to you, you have to have him in your war team. Because for me, I would not go without him now. I would not go without him. And I struggled for a while. And I talked to Tex about this thing. I used Jetfire and a bit. I'm not sure about using Smokescreen. It's like, I'd give him a try. He's pretty decent, you know. And I know how good he is. But, and again, at first I put my team thinking, yeah, it'd be good for build bots. And then I was finding just more and more situations. I was using Sitz and going, oh no, the MDS it's not killed it. So most of the time he does. But this time he hasn't killed it because it's something near healing. He's the man. Honestly, I've had times where he's walked off and been the other side of the map, and he'll still help because of his crazy range. Honestly, guys, I cannot speak so highly of Smokescreen enough to say that I would probably say he is maybe the most important bot in the game for HQ18. That is probably as far as I go. I think Blaster is the best bot in the game generally, but I think for HQ18, I think Smokescreen is the best bot in the game. I would really go that far. So, if you haven't got him yet, I would go and get him. Even if you've got the 4-star and you've got Glitch, I would even consider using that as well. It's going to be harder to take out outpost bots if you're at the top level of the game, because obviously it doesn't do the same damage, so it might take more hits. And you've got to think that the build bots might be getting an upgrade. And you might think, right, well, when the build bots get an upgrade, Smokescreen is going to be useless. But then there's something we can do. Instead of having his G1, we can add a volatile mixture. We should increase his ability damage by 15%. And yes, you do sort of lose the extra damage against enemy bots and stuff like that. But if you need him to take out build bots and that's his job, then you can use the G1 for that as well. So there's a solution. So absolutely amazing bot. Like I said, for me, essential for HQ18, and I would consider really using him if you've got him, guys. I'm sorry.